Okay guys, our vanilla cakes came out. Holy moly. They are beautiful and they smell delicious. I'm gonna put them on this rack and let them cool. And while they're doing that, we're gonna make our frosting. So let me, shove these guys out of the way. And we are gonna make our cream cheese buttercream frosting. So buttercream is one of those things that the first time you make it, you may be disgusted. It is literally what it says it is, butter, cream. You're spreading butter all over your cake in a layer this thick. And unbelievable amounts of sugar. So my best advice to you is pretend like you never saw it and eat it anyway. So this is kind of a cream cheese buttercream, so it's gonna have a little bit of a tangier flavor to it. It doesn't have very many ingredients. In this bowl, we have room temperature, so that's softer than softened butter. If you looked at the Instagram, room temperature butter is gonna be more the one that when you push it, it kind of like mushes out. So none of it should be melty around the outside. There shouldn't be any liquid, but it should be pretty soft, and cream cheese. So we're gonna blend this a little bit, and then we are gonna start adding in some batches, confectioner's sugar. A startling amount of it. So this is 5 cups of powdered sugar, sifted. Remember, I put it through this sieve, or you can use one of those squeezer sifters to get all the lumps out. And when you're doing a frosting, it's really important because you don't want there to be any lumps. You want your frosting to be super smooth. So you can see here, kind of as we get to the bottom, there's a little bit more lumps like that. You can just kind of push them through with your fingers, break them up. And any lump that's persistent, just get rid of it. Don't use it. So once I get down to about here, and that's just the big lumps, I just ditch it. So we'll do that. So here's my sifted sugar. And then once that comes together, we are drizzling in a generous amount of vanilla and about 1/4 cup of milk. I'm keeping the milk close by just in case when we get to that point the frosting isn't as smooth as I want it to be. You can add milk in little drizzles to bring it to the right texture. So I'm also gonna keep a bowl separate because I will take out most of the frosting to frost our cake, and then I have some little green gel food coloring, so I'll make a little bit of colored frosting so that in our next lesson where I show you how to properly frost a cake and then show you a little bit about using piping bags to decorate, we can have kind of a colored frosting. So we're just gonna get going on this. Is this plugged in? Yes. So I'm just gonna start whipping this so it comes together, mixes a little bit, the butter and the cream cheese. You can also use a KitchenAid for this. I thought I would use the stand mixer because most people have a hand mixer. So once it comes together like this, we're gonna turn it down to low, as I said before, as you don't want it to just start spraying all over you. And we'll just add it in little bits. It is a lot of sugar, and this is not a healthy recipe, but it's cake. You don't eat cake every day. This is a great frosting to make for anything. Birthday cake, cupcakes. It's pretty all-purpose. So I'm gonna get about half of this, well, a little more than half of this sugar in. And it's a pretty thick texture. So I think now is when I can start using a little bit of the milk to kind of help bring it together. So I'm gonna put in about a drizzle of this milk and turn my mixer up. You'll see it starts to come together like more of a paste. I'm kind of working my mixer up on the sides to grab all that powdered sugar that's gone up to the sides. It's definitely thick. It's definitely a lot of sugar to work in. So I'm gonna add a little bit more milk, add a little bit more sugar. A little bit of elbow grease. If you use a stand mixer, it kind of keeps it a little bit more contained. So you'll see there's some flying around, but I don't really care. I'm gonna put in the last bit of sugar. It's pretty stiff right now. gonna drizzle in this last bit of milk. So I've got my whole quarter cup of milk in there now. Whoops. I lost a little bit of it there. And at this point, I think I'm going to, just like I said with making the cake batter, you want to kind of pause at some point and make sure that you're scraping down the sides of your bowl. Make sure that you're kind of giving a scrape on the bottom so that everything's mixed in there. And I'm just going to use my whippers to scrape this off. It's actually a pretty nice texture. It was a little stiff. Don't worry if it starts feeling stiff. And if at this point it's still not kind of like a creamy frosting, it's still too bound together, you can just add milk like a tablespoon at a time. So I'm going to put this on high, give it a good last mix. It's looking pretty nice, actually. It's a nice, thick, creamy frosting. I'm going to give it a taste. You can also, it's smooth. It's got that tanginess of the cream cheese, but it's still vanilla. It's obviously sweet because there's a truckload of sugar in there. I'm actually gonna add a little bit more vanilla and a little bit more milk. I want it to be a little bit fluffier and a little bit more pronounced. You can also add other flavorings to your frostings. You can add almond extract is a really nice thing to add. You could add lemon zest to something like this. Any kind of extract flavoring. You could add, what else could you add? Ooh, a little maple syrup. You could add cinnamon. We've made cinnamon buttercreams before. They're delicious. So I'm gonna give this a whirl one more time. Starting on the lower speed always, and then working up to a higher speed. Ah, this is what I want. Okay, so this is much, it's added a little bit of fluffiness, a little bit of smoothness, a little bit more vanilla flavor, which is perfect. So I'm gonna take a good portion of this, enough for a piping bag. Let's say I'll take, because I wanna have enough to frost the sides and the top of the cake. So I'll take maybe a little bit more of this out, and I'm gonna put in just a tiny squirt of green food coloring. This is a gel food coloring, but we'll mix that up so that we have, you know, and you could divide this frosting into several different colors. You can make a double batch so that you have a million if you're doing cupcakes and you want a bunch of different colors. But I think we only need two. A little spring green. I have just a tiny bit more actually. And then in our next lesson, I'll show you how to frost the cake and then fill and use the piping bags to make decorations. So maybe we can make some spring leaves or some business like that. So, I have my 2 buttercreams, my vanilla. I'm just gonna scrape it down. If you're not using this right away, like we're waiting for our cake to cool, so I'm not gonna use it right away. What I want to do then is to cover the top with plastic wrap so that it keeps it nice and sealed off. So I'll show you that. So we'll wanna cover it and kind of press that plastic wrap down on top of it. And you don't have to refrigerate. If you refrigerate it, it'll harden. So you can just leave it out while your cake's cool. And you wanna make sure that your cake's cool all the way to room temperature. Again, it's a buttercream frosting, so it's made of butter. So if you spread it on something warm, it's like spreading it on toast and it will melt. So we're gonna do the same to this guy. Cover it up. kind of press that plastic wrap down on the top. And there are your buttercreams. And we can just wait till our cake is ready and go to town. Thanks.